So welcome, everybody. We will start our session. So today we talk about ServiceNow as a platform for lean IT governance in a digital enterprise. So I compared this creating I'm from Germany, so let's go and create a German Autobahn where we can have a governance, we can have a speed of more than 300 kilometers an hour. So the agenda of today is why is the need for change? What has to happen? A new digital operating model, how we will do the creating of that governance, and how we're going to optimize this using ServiceNow as a platform. The presenters are, of course, my colleague Dave Arms, executive architect from Inspire and a very well-known IT service management expert. Myself as well, from executive architect in Inspire, worked a lot in the business side and now into ServiceNow delivering as well services to the customer. What you will learn in this session, first of all, how to drive the governance upside down of emerging the IT operating model and creating a much more speed in your change, resulting how can you handle that speed in an overall governance of having, at the moment, you probably have a lot of legacy applications in your data centers. What we're trying to do is go away from that legacy world and creating a new world in standard platforms. It's doable. You have seen that in the keynote this morning where the CIO from Accenture mentioned that to define certain platforms where you can have a complete other governance, because then you have a low-code applications on the top where you have a lot more flexibility to grow and adapt to the business. This will result that you can use ServiceNow in a much more dynamic governance system and allow your business to grow and scale at a light speed. That if you define your standard platforms, you can grow on each of the platforms, creating your highway structures of your IT. This is what you need to think. This is why I made that picture. You create a German highway of all connecting your cloud platforms so that the business can drive a fast car on your systems and follow the change happening in the digital transformation. Now I'll hand it over to Dave, discussing the need for change.
Thanks, Yves. So quick question, for whom is this the last session of the very first manic first day? Just stick your hand up if this is your last session. Right, okay, so if we can keep you awake after a day like today, then we're doing okay. It's been hectic, hasn't it? I kind of started this morning and I haven't stopped yet. So I think we've covered a lot of this kind of stuff as we've been throughout the day. John started with it incredibly well. Andrew Wilson then came on stage and talked about more of this. So I won't labor these points, but fundamentally as businesses, we are having to engage, not transact, because the people that make engagement easier disrupt the industry. So born in the cloud, digital organizations are coming along, they're being able to interact more easily with their customers, and that's driving disruption in the industry. Everybody else is having to respond. We're having to respond by making sure that everything is connected, everything is always on, data is always shared and always consistent. And to do that, we're putting everything in the cloud. That's resulting in more data because we have more connected devices. IoT is driving us from hundreds of thousands of CIs to millions to potentially billions within the next 5 to 10 years. That is all going to require us to deal with things more quickly through automation, more effectively through effective use of machine learning and AI, and still in that seamlessly integrated, secure way. So all of these pressures are coming together. They've been coming together for a while, and we all thought they'd kind of hit, and then we'd get a chance to recover before the next wave. But as far as I can see, they're just accelerating and continually getting faster and faster. And as Yves mentioned, that's resulting in many organizations saying, okay, if I'm going to deliver those experiences because they are now my competitive advantage, I'm going to need to standardize my IT at the back end. And we're seeing this emerging model of a discrete set of platforms against which you can deploy, to use Andrew Wilson's words, not mine, that experience architecture against which you can deploy those experiences really quickly so that you're not waiting for the next platform upgrade, you're not spending 85% of your time managing legacy, you're spending 85% of your time creating new. That need for experience means we need to get even more integrated across those platforms, across the solutions in a way that we haven't had before. So people are very comfortable with the concept of experience being the interaction at the top left there, but actually it's the experience plus the transaction. So it's wonderful me having a nice GUI to interact with, but if the performance of the service I get out of that is poor, I'm still not happy. But it goes even further down into the bottom left there, that actually my experience as a customer, my experience as an employee is made up of all of the experiences I have. I need to know when to go to each piece of technology. I need to know when to go to each platform. I need that contextual notification to tell me what I need to know and when I need to know it. And then I need that ability to have an omni-channel interaction so that I don't receive a notification while I'm out and about and have to go back to my desk before I can do anything about it. I need to be able to action all of that. So that's driving standardization across these platforms in a way that we haven't seen before, to provide an integrated digital experience for our employees and our customers. We're having to think about even more. Now that's going to require better governance. Forgot to catch up with my clicker. And just to bring in one additional piece, I've written about and worked in the area of SIAM for a number of years now. What's even more complex is that these platforms are now consumable in a number of different models. I can go by infrastructure as a service, put on my application, put in my data, apply my service management, and offer an end-to-end service to my business. Similarly with platform as a service, software as a service, and business process as a service. I now have so many options as to what I can buy, and all of those will need to be integrated in that seamless way to deliver service to my customers and end users. So how do I start to achieve this? How do I start to do this? What are the changes this is driving? Because to achieve this model and stay relevant and current, I need to be able to reduce the time that it's taking me to not only implement these new solutions, but maintain them and improve them and evolve them. We currently work on approximately 6 monthly releases here in ServiceNow. We will need to continue to do that, if not faster, as more competitors grow in the marketplace. So standardizing on those fewer platforms is giving me the opportunity to reduce my complexity, but fundamentally so that I can increase my agility while still retaining that quality of integrated experience. So just to give you a context for today's discussion, ServiceNow, you can put in a number of those boxes. If you talk about ServiceNow applications, you probably consume those as more of a software as a service type model. If you talk about the platform, you may have seen and you will certainly hear about ServiceNow platform now being a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for high availability application platform as a service. But what we're talking about today is ServiceNow as an ITSM, ITBM capability that enables you and supports your governance of all of these platforms together. So to talk about what that means in terms of an IT operating model, I'll hand you back to Yves.
Thank you, Dave. So what does that mean? What are you going to do different? So most of the people know the left, this traditional vision strategy going to the value stream, to the portfolio, to the changes. This is not new. This is already for 30, 40 years there. But what this means, if you do not have a proper governance, what has happened in IT, I was one of them myself in my past history as VP application, is the pressure of the business demand goes through the system and we get a zoo of applications. In my previous life, I had 500 applications everywhere because there is a strategy of a business unit, they go for this and they create their own way. And what happens is it gets out of control. Then we think, oh my God, we can outsource it. But if you outsource shit, what happens? It's not good. That means is then you give the control, the key to your supplier. And then we get out of control. We have an enormous backpack of maintenance money. And then you have the CEO pumping to the CIO, you need to change, you need to do, but you have less money. And each year, the supplier comes with price changes going up. So it gets a circle of, I call it negative energy. Today, this is changing. It's changing now. It's in your mindset to put handcuffs out of your prison and turn the pyramid upside down. If you create a certain amount of platforms, and you see that on the right side, if you create, it's up to you to define that. It's up to you as an IT governance to say to the business, no. And no does not mean no forever in a certain direction. You say, no, I will going to move from the dirt roads for the small roads to the highways. Create together a highway and business can drive 300 kilometers an hour. And this is what you need to go. You define 5 to 10 cloud platforms, then you get rid of all your left side legacy, and it will take a while. I'm not saying that this transition is done in 6 months, for sure not. This will create years. And you saw this morning Accenture that he is now 90% in the cloud. It took them years to drive this. But it's a mindset. You start in your mind to do the governance. And you always have the same message. Do not customize. Do not go for legacy niche apps because it will create a zoo of integration. The digital world requires connecting your cloud platforms. If you have legacy application, I had 2,000 Lotus Notes applications. There was no integration. This was a zoo. And this is how you want to create a user experience over that. This is not good. So you define a certain platform, you connect it, and you create a world to your business service. Look, you can create low-code applications. You still have some flexibility on top of the platform. ServiceNow, you can create different applications. Other platforms, you can do that as well. And this is how you drive the standardization. And what does that mean? If you look at the value and the agility, these are the two things the CEO wants from you. Rapid value creation and agility. You remember the world's bimodal. You want to have the legacy world very standard, and you want to have the new experience world very fast. Good news for you, you can do both. If you go for your platforms, you can be governed inside your platform, but you can be very agile on top of your platform because it will not hit your change. So it delivers value. If you look at it, rapid business change you can follow. You always have to repeat the message into your organization. So I like cloud platform first. Not cloud first, because cloud first you can also go to Amazon and you will create your own development and your own islands. That's also not so good, because then you will create legacy even on the cloud, or you also need a SaaS platform. So you need to say the platform is first, and you connect your platform, and that will reside in a much better digital data structure of your enterprise. You will create a virtual enterprise that you can act on, you can create decisions on, you can automate on, and this will drive enormous efficiency. And that's the difference of, we call it digital native cloud companies. If you look at companies who are disruptive, this is in the backbone, they have these platforms defined. Now we go each, it's a little bit a busy slide, I know, but we want to, how to map this in your platform. How do you do this? Because you cannot say to the CEO, here, this is, you need to create your platforms, you need to map it somewhere. So that's why you create HR, how many platforms you need, 2 or 3, pick. And then these platforms, I need to stay with it. If they have 20, you show red. You show the heat map, you're not standardized, and keep showing each month these dashboards to create a map. Because if, at the ideal situation, you have for every capability one platform. IT, ServiceNow. HR, maybe 2 or 3 additional with ServiceNow, with ERP in Connect with ServiceNow. So this is Microsoft as well for Office in connection. So you define in your CMDB, because you can go upper, your service mapping mapped to your business capability. This will show in ITBM under application portfolio your application strategies. So it will show if you have like 20 applications in one area, that's the state where you are in, you show. That means this is like your blood. If you go for your digital health check, your health check, you see your values. And if your cholesterol is up, oh, I need to do some sports. The same you can do with, it's simple, the same you can do with the business. You can go to your business and say, hey, you have 20 applications, that's not good. This is not healthy. So we need to be slim to be more faster. And this is how you do it. And not many people know that you can do this as well with ServiceNow. You can put all the data in ServiceNow, show this dashboard, and go with the journey together with the business and show, look, this is your prioritization. Where do we lose a lot of money? And if you change it, how do you gain? And then you go from the 75%, 25%, 75 maintenance, 25 innovation, to a more 60, 50, 50. Even companies go to 30, 40 and have 70% innovation. It's possible, but it's a journey, and the governance of this is each day you need to communicate that message. What will be the outcome? Let's go, not mission to Mars, but let's go to that journey, and we are in that stage where we have these platforms defined and are running. So we can proactively have a forecast of the demand from the customer channel to the platforms. So you can imagine if you have 5, 6 platforms, traditional ITs have one big portfolio and it loses time, one big cap, so you can now differentiate per platform and you're more agile. Because each platform of its own doesn't have to know, if you do a change in Microsoft, you don't have to do the change in SAP or in ServiceNow. They are different. So you can define your portfolio funnels per platform and be more agile on there. You clarify what the digital strategy means for the enterprise, because you can view it. If HR has 20, 30 applications, excuse me, you're not digital. You're red. If you have 1, 2, 3 platforms, you're green. And it's fairly simple. Each one can understand this. 20 bad, 3 good. So it's an easy system to explain this. And it's better to, as well, for the conversation with your management, otherwise it's less technical. It gives you as well transparency on the cost, because each of these applications you can have connected to your financial management, and you can really view how much this is costing you. Not only from an infrastructure perspective, but as well from an application and a development perspective. We, as well, if you buy these platforms, you get the best practices. So if you buy, for example, ServiceNow, it includes the best practices of ITIL and incident, problem, and so you don't need to create that. The same in other platforms. And this is your time to market. It goes much faster. Plus, if you have all this data coming from your platforms, you can act on improving it. It's a continuous improvement. It goes step by step. You don't do a big jump, but if you climb a mountain, it's step by step you climb it. And this is how you look at your data. You say, remember the 20 has to go to 3. You can also look at the SLA performance of your vendors, everything is in one platform, and it drives performance and value. And we see that in customers where they have unbelievable cost savings, and these cost savings, they can invest in doing again more innovation or again more rationalization. So it's a positive. Remember when I started, a negative cycle of woo, now it's creating positive. We create more value. That means there's more investment potential to do more business. What does that mean for governance? Dave?
Thanks, Yves. So now we've talked about the exciting art of the possible. Let's bring that back to some of the challenges that we all face, because I think it was mentioned again in the keynote this morning. It's quite interesting sitting in the audience while John Donahoe gives you a pitch that you're supposed to be giving 3 hours later. You think maybe he's covered everything there. But it's not a technology challenge. It's a people, it's an organizational, it's a culture challenge. So a little one-on-one on governance. Those of you that know COBIT will recognize are we doing the right things? Are we doing them the right way? Are we getting them done well? And are we realizing the benefits? That's fundamentally the set of questions that governance is set to answer for your services and your organization. How are we keeping IT aligned to the organizational goals, both from a business perspective, and remember, now we're facing this additional challenge of experience. We're having to align those services from an experience perspective in IT as well. How are we creating a structure to make sure that decision making happens and it's informed both by data, machine learning, artificial intelligence? How are we enabling collaboration across not only the members of our own organization, but also our service providers, that complex SIAM world? And how are we making sure that we require action from service owners to continually evolve their services? I've known many service owners, and I've known many that feel that just running their service and keeping it going is sufficient. I think that may have been the case 20 years ago when I started in IT, but it's certainly not the case now. Continual evolution is an absolute necessity. So how do we start to do that? So I'm going to break this down into two pieces, really. So first of all, here we have the individual service governance. How is the service owner taking in demand, managing their portfolio, delivering their solutions, and then turning those into operating services? That's going to be replicated for every single service, large-scale service in your organization. But now we've started to introduce this second challenge. I have a clear business strategy here, and I have a clear IT strategy here, but how many organizations are able to evaluate incoming demand against an overarching IT strategy before they start to fulfill it from their existing service catalog of capabilities. And this is the challenge that we're facing right now. How do we intercept business demand and make sure that we deliver that demand from a core set of platforms in a way that satisfies our overall IT strategy? How do we stop our enterprise diverging to the point where we can no longer deliver the seamless experience that we know we need to from a business differentiator? How do we balance this service catalog approach that we want to have in IT to create standardization, balance that with the business demand for continual change, continual evolution, and inform that with the art of the possible? That's what we're trying to do with the governance framework. Now, you can take this governance framework and you can fill probably 5 or 6 hours talking through it in detail, so we obviously don't have that time, but it's fundamentally about clear ownership, making sure that you're governed by strategic principles, you're focusing on business-driven outcomes, and you are continually evolving. And those are all messages we heard from all of the keynote speakers this morning. So what does that start to look like? Fundamentally, governance is a set of decision-making bodies, people sitting in a room making decisions based on information, and they're doing that informed by a set of policies and principles. Governance charters, performance dashboards, processes, governance artifacts such as development standards, etc., to ensure that you get the consistency. Now, obviously, this takes time, and I think the point that Yves first made to me when he talked about the German Autobahn is that actually the foundations on a German Autobahn are probably 2 to 3 times deeper than they are on motorways in most other countries. And that's so that they can have that level of safety in ensuring that drivers at 300 kilometers an hour, because they have no speed limits, those roads are going to stand up to that. And it's similarly governance here. How do we invest in governance to make sure that we can move fast as a business? Because fundamentally, and I'm open to debate on this, as long as it's in a bar this evening, I think we're all about accelerating idea to value. If I have a concept today, how quickly can I build out that concept, translate that into value, and deploy that into my environment? That's the key differentiator. If you look at the major disruptors in all of our markets today, they are delivering great experiences faster than anybody else, and that is buying them significant proportions of market share. So how do we as an IT organization facilitate that, both from the business round to the operation, but also that continual service improvement, IT innovation-driven cycle back the other way? How do we make sure that we've got 360-degree visibility of all our resources? How do we make sure that our investments are aligned to strategy, that we've got our people working on the right things that will increase our agility and getting us that faster time to market? Now, you won't be surprised to say, I would say that that's by bringing those things onto a single consistent platform with integrated data and underpinning your governance model with that, you not only get the benefits of agility, but you get the benefits of control. So what I'm going to do is just briefly talk about some of the ways in which the ServiceNow applications can be utilized to start to accelerate that journey. We know we need to maintain control, but how do we do that at speed so that we can sustain our performance? Now, I love the expression a bit of an eye chart. This is a bit of an eye chart, but it's as simple as I could make it way of articulating some of the roles in that service governance. So, platform architect, platform portfolio manager, program manager, and operations manager sitting under a platform owner. Those are roles. If we're talking a relatively small service, that could be one person occupying all of those roles, or it could be 5 people, or it can, in some of the enterprises that I'm dealing with, that's 10 or 20 people. For big platforms with very complex portfolios, but fundamentally you still have somebody focusing on the architecture, delivering, managing the portfolio of services that are available, managing the programs, and managing the operations. And they're doing that in an iterative life cycle process that's driving continual service improvement back to the business. And they're doing that under the control and auspices of a platform owner. The difference if they're doing that on ServiceNow is that most of these things are existing dashboards within the platform. I don't know about you, but my biggest frustration in life is when I go into a meeting and somebody presents me with a PowerPoint presentation filled with charts. I don't understand where the data came from. I don't understand what's been included and excluded from the data. And therefore, we spend half the meeting talking about what does the data mean rather than making meaningful decisions. By having real-time performance analytics dashboards available, I can review those before the meeting. We all have a consistent and reliable view of what that means. And the meeting can purely be about defining actions. And then we can create visual task boards in the meeting that will then drive people's actions and behaviors until the next meeting. So governance meetings go from 2 to 3 hours to 30 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on the size of the environment. So we're using the power of the platform and the power of the applications to accelerate this journey, to give visibility of the portfolio of demand, the portfolio of projects, the portfolio of services, and the performance of the services and the service providers in there. Taking that into that portfolio management view, in many of the organizations I've worked in, full planning tends to be a 3 to 4 month process where the business decides it's got some things it wants to do, it decides it's got some money, and then we go through an iterative process of emails and spreadsheets that extends over 3 to 4 months before the final budget is approved. Why not use some of the enhanced CMDB capabilities of ServiceNow to get insight into the existing portfolio, the existing capabilities, and how that maps to new demand? Build out in the ITBM, ideation and demand management modules, a business portfolio perspective and a related IT service provider-based perspective so that meetings become looking at the bubble charts within demand management and making decisions in real time, tracking them in the system. Everybody has a consistent and coherent view. Why not capture ideation throughout the year from the business and from the continual service improvement side so you have a constant backlog of activities that you know you want to do the next window you have. This is not requiring any more time, it's just using technology to give us the insight we need to make decisions faster and take action quicker. And doing so from a standardized data set. If I'm managing this in ServiceNow, I have a single consistent data set that I can look at from a service provider perspective, a consumer perspective, a customer perspective, a geographical perspective. So I can then go to my stakeholders and we can make decisions faster. This is not rocket science, this is not new capability, it's just existing capability used in a way to directly support the performance of IT and the agility of IT. Taking that journey from insight to action. I think we're all very comfortable with the where am I now discussion, understanding what my current performance is. Those are, I would refer to indicators. They tell me where I was yesterday or tell me where I was 5 minutes ago. There's a plethora of dashboards there to help me make those decisions on a per service basis. But now I also want to start looking at where am I going. I want to start using the machine learning capabilities of the platform to predict where my current performance is going to take me and understand where I should go next. For the first time, certainly in my career around ITSM and ITBM, starting to get benchmarks with performance indicators and actions predicting for me what I can do to make a difference in this area, how I can make things better. And those are going through machine learning and being prioritized on a monthly basis. So I can always go into the benchmarking capability and understand what are the biggest impact items I can do to affect the performance of my service. And then understanding what do I need to do to get there And how do I do that? Think capabilities such as Spotlight, where I can start to prioritize the work of diverse teams based on the performance characteristics I need to change, is taking that cycle of insight to action down from days to weeks to hours to minutes. You can configure the platform as you go to drive the behaviors that you need to have. So again, using the power of the platform and the applications within it to drive the performance in the area of governance. So what are the 5 key elements that I think we'll need to be looking at here? So the governance framework is a must, establishing control across the performance of the individual services and then being able to aggregate that performance back up to the business. Being able to define a digital transformation roadmap that will help you make the transition from the current state to the future state and keep that evolving. The idea of a 3 to 5 year plan to me these days is laughable, frankly. If I look at the IT organizations I was dealing with 3 to 5 years ago and the ones I'm dealing with today, they bear very little resemblance. And then from there, which areas where do I want to focus? Is it in that demand management ideation capability? Is it my business interface that needs direct support? Or is it in my operations? I target those things and bring the platform to bear? Is it in evaluating the business case capabilities? How many people use demand management to drive the business case for change within the demand management process so that it becomes part of the formal evaluation of demand? And if we don't, why don't we? Somebody obviously does, and I would advocate that entirely, because fundamentally IT only exists to drive business. It doesn't exist to be great in technology. Or is it driving the rate of that change in the DevOps release management cycles such that we can deliver not one change a month, one change a week, 2 a day, 10 a day, 100 a day, 1,000 a day, whatever it needs to be. So using these concepts to identify and target the areas in which governance needs to improve, but also then leveraging the technology that exists within your organization to accelerate those and standardize those, I think will give you the depth of the foundation in your governance framework that will enable the organization to accelerate. It's sometimes very difficult to get a governance-related project up the priority list when it's competing against business demand, but fundamentally you're talking about the health of the IT organization. So just to close out, last slide, and remembering that you don't have to do this alone. So within your own organization, you have the roles to do most of this. You have another set of capabilities you can leverage from your partners, and there's another set of capabilities you can leverage from ServiceNow. So whether it's engaging with us as an organization to bring Inspire to bear in your organization, to explore new use cases, help you develop the governance frameworks, or whether it's actually procuring technical advice and guidance or resources to help you execute that governance model, help is available. You will see more and more coming on governance of both the platform itself and also the IT organization in the Customer Success Center that John announced this morning. We're working on that material at the moment and we'll harvest more and more into that space. You will already find for the ServiceNow service a lot of the development standards that are available through the Customer Success Center. So those resources exist, and if you can't find them, then come talk to us and we'll help create them. But to close us out, I'll now hand it back to Yves.
Thank you. So looking at the call to action, the top takeaways from today's session. As a summary, the business transformation is driving change, and the change starts with you in the room. So as a takeaway, you can simulate, each of you as a customer, you can simulate what you have today as part, is it legacy or your application landscape today, and you can simulate how it will be running on standard platforms. This is a simple thing on paper, because this is an architectural design, the what-if scenario. What if our company would have platforms? Try to think, calculating what does that mean from a cost and from a business value perspective. Try to get away with the thinking that the operating model is like German highways. You need a solid platform to drive change, to drive fast. Don't put your business onto the dirt track. It will not work. And you need to clarify that. So say no to like a widespread of zoo landscapes. Say yes to standardize on platforms and a solid governance based on that. And I hope you have seen with the different screens that Dave showed that ServiceNow can be an enabler of driving that change. Because you can put these roadmaps into the platform and you can run that every time to show on a monthly basis the progress and as well the direction to a true digital transformation. Thank you. We have still a couple of minutes for questions.
Yes. I'll come and stand next to you and you can.
You had the life cycle there and you had the platform architect first solutioning before the business prioritize. Is that just a light solution? Because that would put a lot of burden on the architect before you get to, whether you're going to do something with it or not. And then your 2 slides are showing roadmaps. Those are obviously PowerPoints. Mm-hmm. How do you get that in ServiceNow?
So hopefully everybody heard the question there. So yes, the architecture piece up front is to make sure that it ends up with the right platforms, the right resources to get.
More directing into a platform. It's not a detailed solution.
It's not a detailed solution. It's if you think in TOGAF terms, those iterations is going through. I have a high-level design to get an idea of cost. Do we proceed? Then we'll go to a detailed design. So on the diagram, that's the iterations along the bottom. Now the transformation roadmaps.
Those 2 slides at the bottom.
Yeah. These are PowerPoint, but you can put them in the top format, like project. So this top format you see as well, a view, and we have shown as well that view of here. This is also a view that we did. So we can do this view on the platform, or we can, from a PowerPoint perspective, if you need a PowerPoint, you can also do it in PowerPoint.
So in the platform, there's the concept of programs and then underpinning projects, etc., within the PPM capability. So the transformation roadmap can be a set of initiatives with desired business outcomes and then underpinning projects and programs that support that. That's effectively what that is visually representing. Unfortunately, the output from the platform doesn't look quite as picturesque as that, so we did the kind of pretty one.
That's Guitar Hero, the other one. This one, you could take the APM roadmap if you gave it different fields from the SDLC.
Yeah.
Some themes and get that.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, and thank you.
I told them that last year.
I will go and feed that back because I want a nice, easy visualization. We build transformation roadmaps within Inspire for our clients, and handing over a PowerPoint always grates a little bit. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, on your ideas and capability strategy graphic there. So in terms of capability strategy and your roadmaps, how far-reaching is your view and how malleable is that roadmap? For example, if you build a capability strategy out 3 years, a lot can change in the business, and you talked about the adaptability.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile that? Or is it just in time and you develop architectural spikes, just a couple iterations out in front of the business? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'm typically building roadmaps on that sort of 3 to 5 year horizon in the knowledge that they will change. And I think for that kind of event horizon, a 3 to 6 month reevaluation is probably the right kind of level. You don't want to be doing it every day because you have to know where the dependencies are and start laying foundations for things you want to do in the future. I think we probably know roughly what our business is going to look like in 3 to 5 years, but to feel that we've got okay, this is the 5-year roadmap, we're not diverting from that, let's go, is simply the wrong answer. So I think it would be, look, that's your event horizon, but reiterate through that every 6 to 12 months would be what I would suggest.
But it's also important, if you get ideas from the business and there is a roadmap of your software provider that comes out of the box, we need to teach the timeline. So if we would have something going out in London, you would not create it on your own. It's better to wait until it becomes available inside your platform roadmap. This is also an idea. So sometimes it's best to slow down if there would be standard functionality coming in.
Okay, right, folks, we have to finish there. Yeah, Easy's at the back tapping his watch, which means...
Thank you very much.
I will be in the hack zone for the next, until 7 o'clock this evening, running the augmented reality demo. So if you want to come and talk about governance, please, I'd do anything to have a distraction. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And we'll speak to you soon. The hack zone.